Welcome to this episode of The Job That Built Me. Today we're honored to have Lieutenant Mike Nasti from the Prince George's County Fire and EMS Department. Mike opens up about his early days as a volunteer, his transition into a career firefighter, and the challenges of becoming a leader. From humbling failures to transformative lessons, his story is both relatable and inspiring. We'll also explore his exciting projects outside the firehouse, like his leadership podcast and participation in a fire service pipe band. This is an episode packed with wisdom, humor, and real talk about life in and out of the firehouse. Let's get started. Just got to double check that it's going. Where does it say? There it is. Record. All right. I just wanted to make sure it was uploading. All right, so we're uploading in real time. That's good. What are you drinking out of?
This is my little Yeti, my espresso Yeti.
Wow, that's fancy.
I only got this for deployments when we go away. Just so I want to walk around and be like, oh, I got my espresso here.
You got to put the pinky out. Yeah.
Pinky out. Yeah. Oh, 100%. Because the rest of the guys are drinking like little shot glasses or plastic. I'm like, eat it.
Oh, that's fun.
So, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've followed you guys for a while. I've known who you are for a long time, and be on your radar to be a part of this is an honor, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Now we know you're lying.
Now we know you're lying.
What's that?
You said now we know you're lying.
Sure.
No, appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem.
So tell us a little about yourself and how you got started in the fire service.
So I started volunteering in 2001, August of 2001. I was a teenager, and I was in Southern Maryland in Calvert County. And, I went to high school with guys. I always wore like the volunteer fire department T-shirts and, thought about it, got interested in it. And then I was actually going out to buy a car. It was my first car. It was like an old S10 pickup truck, like a Chevy S10, like a 95, the old square bodies. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
So I went to go to this car dealership in Huntingtown. So as I was driving by, I saw a firehouse right there, said volunteer fire department, Huntingtown volunteer fire department. And I pulled in, and it's kind of how I figured out who they were. And I walked in, and the rest is history, really. 2001 is when I started, got my EMT first. And I don't remember why I did that. I feel like they needed EMTs, or they told you. I don't remember. But anyway, did EMT, then got fire school and started living there. And, I was there for quite some time before, life kind of took a different direction and took me away from the area. So, and that's kind of how I got started.
Nice.
Yeah. I kind of liked it too, because I didn't live too far from Huntingtown. And what I didn't realize was, like, you guys are from New Jersey, so everything's all townships. But like what I thought was kind of cool was, you get a call and it's not like people were always there, but there are guys that like live right around the corner. Like, there's a family, they're both in the fire department, and, not even that long ago, they can hear the siren while they're out working in their house in the cornfield, not in the cornfield, but like on their farms and stuff. They hear the siren. They're like, oh, 3 long tones. That's a box. Let me go run to the firehouse. And they come flying in their pickup trucks. Like I don't know. I was immediately hooked. The guys there were awesome. They were career guys in DC and other, large jurisdictions around, in Southern Maryland, or the DC metropolitan area, excuse me. So like Fairfax, Arlington, all that. All those guys were there. And soaked it all in, hung on every word, listened to all the cool war story, and looking back, what is it? What is this, 2024? So 23 years later, you're able to sit back and figure out kind of what was bullshit and what wasn't. And you're kind of, that's still cool. Like, it still made it fun. Like, you know what I mean? So, and that's how I got my start. And then that transitioned into, working in the department I work in now. It got me early. It got me when I was a teenager. And I've always wanted to be in the fire department. Is something I've always wanted to do. But like being able to do it as a teenager and volunteering, the hooks got me and they never let go.
I think that's huge. I feel bad for guys, so I don't feel like they always don't get the hook early. But once you get the hook, I think it's in there for forever.
Yeah, and I think it's a big difference between doing it for the short term as opposed to doing it for the long term. What is it? You ever heard that term, Mr. Right and Mr. Right Now? You ever heard that joke with like women will say that kind of stuff? It's kind of the same thing. Like, what is it cool now, or is it something that you're really going to be about? And I don't think there's a lot of people that really make it everything while still understanding how to have a balance of turning it off.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? And I think that's at a whole different level of being into the job and being into the fire department is, people say, buy in and are you into the job or are you just on the job? Well, there's a flip side of that, of being able to completely turn it off. Like you have to be able to turn that off. And I think the point that I'm making is to circle back, and I apologize for being long-winded, but I think when you really get it and the hooks are really in you is when you have that ability to really turn it off, control it, rather than the fire department controlling you, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
So where are you currently at now?
So now I work in the Prince George's County Fire EMS Department in Prince George's County, Maryland. And before I go any further, anything I say, my opinions, all that are all my own. They don't reflect my department, my shift, my station, the Prince George's County government, the chief of the department, none of that. This is all me, only me, nothing else. So I work there now. I've been there for 17 and a half years. I'm currently a lieutenant in Capitol Heights, and I'm in charge of a shift of 7 people. Great group of guys and a great firehouse and a great area to work. And yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Nice. What's your rig?
What's that?
What kind of rig you on?
So we have a Pierce engine. We're a single engine paramedic engine firehouse. So we have a paramedic engine, we have a paramedic ambulance, a transport unit, and it's a rehab. So like if there's a working fire, long duration incidents, technical rescues, all that kind of stuff where there's going to be a lot of exertion of resources, or large scale incidents, it's a rehabilitation, and it's staffed by one guy 24/7 who's part of the shift, who's in the rotation of the firefighters. And he drives that unit. So you can get out of the elements. They can do assessment like blood pressure, temperature, they can check your blood gases, that kind of stuff. And then, get some water, get out of the heat, get out of the cold, that kind of thing. So we have one of those there. So those are the 3 units we have. And we work a 24/72 schedule.
Nice. Best schedule there is.
Yeah.
8 days a month is I think the golden standard.
I think I just heard of somebody doing a 48-144 or something like that. I was like,
really?
That might be pretty. That might be nice.
48-144. Usually you hear 48-96.
Yeah.
48-144. Wow.
I can't think of how many hours that is off the top of my head, but that's got to be 5 days. 6 days.
I think it's 2 and 6. Yeah.
2 and 6. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's going to be call volume dependent, but I don't know if I would want to do 48 hours at work in any department.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Like, I could not imagine, like, and I know federal guys do it and some other places do it. I mean, think about it. Like, for example, my kid wasn't feeling that great and came in my room at 1:30. My alarm goes off at 3:30. I didn't go back to sleep. And then you go work, you do your full day, you kind of just, and you know how it is, you just go to work, you just tough it out. Drink some coffee, distract yourself, let your brain rot on TikTok to kind of pass the time when you have downtime, you're not doing something productive, whatever. You go to bed and you wake up, you're like, oh, my relief should be here. Oh, I heard the Scott pack going off. Let me go see if that's my relief. Like, you're excited to go out and check it out and see if you're ready to go home. But if you work a 48, you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, I got a whole another 24 hours. So, I don't know, man. That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a 48, whether you're super busy or super slow, it's either you're going to drive yourself crazy or you're going to be beat to shit.
Yeah,
You're
and
gonna, we're gonna go
we're
crazy.
capped at 36 hours, and with you have to have an 8-hour break, no more than 36 hours without an 8-hour break in a 44-hour period, right? So there's other jurisdictions they cap us at 36. There's other places around us that can work 48 straight, and they have very busy, like obnoxiously busy firehouses, like 20 call stations or 20 call units, and you're going to work 48 hours there.
Yeah,
You
it's a
can do
hard rip.
24 hours of overtime, and on a 24/48 schedule, no freaking way. None. I'm out. 100% out. Hard out on that. It's a lot, man. I mean, maybe, and I'm not even old. Like I couldn't imagine guys that are, 50s still riding calls, whatever, and they're working 48 hours straight. Like I'm 39 and I don't want to do
Yeah.
anything 48 times.
I don't know how the Fed does it. I think
What's
the
that?
Fed's what? I think the Fed's
20
a 48 on, 48 off.
24, no, it's 24 on, 24 off. And then there's a Kelly day in there somewhere.
Who's that?
Or it's Department of Defense. So they're like 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off. And then they get like 5 days off or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm going to butcher this, but there's some that are 48 72, and this is the DC metropolitan area.
Okay.
So like Washington DC, like military bases. Like I live in Frederick County, and there's a Fort Detrick. Fort Detrick is up here, and I think they work a 24, or they work a 48 72. And then there's some that are 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 3 off. I screwed it up. But anyway, there's a Northern Virginia schedule where they do 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 4 off, or something like that. I think it's every third you get a 4-day, and there's a 3-day. And I don't remember now. I shouldn't have even brought it up because I didn't know it off the top of my head. But
I mean, either way, doing the 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 1 off.
too much.
That you're either coming to work or you're coming from work.
Yeah, and you do a 24/72,
We do
don't you?
24/72s, yeah.
So like swapping your opposite day is awesome because one dude can cover your entire shift, but inevitably, at some point, you're going to do 1 on, 1 off, and it's going to be absolutely terrible.
Mhm.
Like I even when I was younger, like when I was younger, it wasn't that bad, but even then, I'm kind of like, whew, I'm at work every day for almost a week. If you do a middle day, I mean, you're physically at work every single day for almost 5 days straight, going or coming, and like I live 71 miles from where I work, and it's not bad. I mean, I leave early enough. So I mean, it's like an hour and 10 minutes, hour-ish. I mean, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. But coming home with rush hour traffic, it's an hour and 40 minutes, hour 30 minutes. And then, I mean, what time do you guys relieve?
8.
We're both 8, yeah.
8. We relieve at 7. There is a stark difference in leaving my firehouse at 6 and then 6:30. Dramatic difference. You're talking like an hour and 10 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes right off Jump Street.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's rough.
Yeah,
and if there's an accident,
I mean, it is, but you're also going home, so it's kind of like meh.
Yeah.
Now, if it was like going to work, like I don't even know how this would happen, but like you go from one station in North Side County to another station at the south side of the county, and it's a 45-minute drive because of traffic. It's just it's too much. Then there's the Capitol Beltway. I don't know if you guys know much about that or 95. They're terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal.
And it just
I try to avoid it.
Yeah.
Well, just go around.
Yeah. Take the long way around.
Maybe I need to start going through Virginia on my way to work and skip it altogether. I don't know.
How big is PG County?
I'm gonna get roasted for not knowing this, but it's large. It's one of the largest counties in the state. I don't remember how many square miles it is. I probably should know that.
It's big.
Yeah, it's big. I was doing some research a few years ago. I forgot. I did know the number. I want to say, I don't know, is it like 300 square miles?
I thought it was a little bit bigger than that.
I was trying to compare it to the county that we live in and work in.
What county do you live in?
We're both in Monmouth County.
Monmouth County, New Jersey, huh?
I
What a
moved
nice
south.
place.
I'm in Ocean County
Well,
now.
yeah, I should say we both work in Monmouth County.
Yeah, I
I was
defected.
in my mind. I was thinking 400. It's 483 square miles, Prince George's County,
Okay.
Maryland,
What's the
which is
population?
pretty.
It's got to be like
It's a lot. But then
Half,
you look,
half,
900,
half a
1.2.
million, at least half a million. It's gotta be.
947,000 in the 2023 census or
Wow.
2023. It says population census.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, but those are the. If I'm reading this right, those are the residents, not
Yeah,
visitors.
it's not your daily population.
I
Right.
mean, yeah. I mean, there's got to be well over. And then you also count hundreds of thousands of people that travel through the county to get to
Yeah,
work.
on the roads and everything.
Mhm.
It's gotta be double that.
Come from Southern Maryland, all these other areas that come through Prince George's County to get to DC, Virginia. I don't want to say all roads lead through it, but if you go on the Capitol Beltway, you're coming right through it,
Right.
unless you're going on the opposite way. Excuse me.
But
The Virginia
what
side.
year did you start in PJ?
2007. So I'm
Oh, you've been there for it all. The good stuff.
for a while. Been there for a while, but it felt like the blink of an eye almost.
I believe
You wake
that.
up and you're like, oh shit, I got 17 and a half years on or whatever it is.
When do you what's the earliest you can go?
I can go in 27. I'll be eligible to go in 27. Now, I don't see myself doing that because when that happens, my kid will be 10.
Okay.
And I don't know if I would physically survive my house. I'd be murdered if I
Yeah.
retired at 41 or whatever it is. Like I say that in jest, but I'm eligible to go in 27, but there's no point in me going. I mean, I'm still fairly
Yeah.
young, in good shape. Like I'm in
Love
better
the
shape
job.
now than I think I've been in a long time. I feel great. And we have a 3-year drop they're working to a 5-year drop now. I think it just got approved for our newest contract, and it's just got to go through the county process. So typically people wait for their 2 highest years. So the 2 highest years of your pay, which are typically your 21st and 22nd years. So for the drop program, 22 and a half years, you're eligible to enter it. And then you ride out 3 years, which puts you at 25 and a half ish. And then you can buy out credit with your leave, how much leave you have, sick leave, annual leave, and then how much annual leave spilled into sick after you hit the cap of annual leave cap at the end of every year. And then you can buy back time for months of service. So I think it's 1,040 hours of annual that spilled over the cap translates to like 2 years of service or something, 3 years. I don't remember. I'm screwing that up. But anyway, you can buy back time to get to the closest max to your max of my class. I can retire. 85% is the max, absolute max, with time and all that. 20 years at 65%.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So it's
I want to see
it's good.
65 till 30.
Yeah, it's a little different up here.
Yeah, and it's just the strength of the union over time and fighting for benefits and stuff like that. And I'm not going to get into the union or politics or anything like that, but I do think we have a good retirement for my class, and I'll just leave it at that.
That's awesome. Good for you guys. So you got on in 07. When did you get promoted?
The summer of 2015. So 9 years ago now.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was longer.
Yeah,
But
because I got hired in 2015. I
Okay.
just started my 10th year.
Yeah. So yeah, about 10 years. 2015. I was acting for a while before that. So for us, we have to be paramedics to promote. So I did my medic time. I was on and off a medic unit at like 360 days or something like that. I mean, it was tucked just under a year. And I went acting. Well, I got told I was going to OC, officer candidate school, and then acting. So I went acting into Berwyn Heights. They're on the north side of the county.
Mhm.
I went there in June. Middle of June, and I ended up getting promoted in August of that year. So I was acting from June to August, got promoted, and found my way to Capitol Heights. My wife got pregnant, so I had to get off day work and landed on my feet. Yeah, landed on my feet there. So I've been there for almost 8 years now.
How was that
Nice.
transition?
From firefighter to officer,
Yeah.
terrible. I mean, if I could go back in time, I think the first thing I would do would probably be to wring my own neck of what the hell were you thinking? Because I think I underestimated how important the road work is leading up to your promotion. That's one thing that I know I underestimated, and I always took for granted of your interview and your resume for being an officer starts from when you enter into the department, right? And 17 and a half years into my career, almost 10 years as a lieutenant, I'm still paying for actions and things that I've done and bridges that I've burned. Now I'm still paying for those things. So it made the transition difficult of going in thinking I'm just going to be one of the guys. Hey, I was a firefighter yesterday and I'm a lieutenant today. Let's go in, let's laugh and joke and go to have some fires and have some fun. And I was sorely mistaken of the undertaking that I had in front of me. And looking back on it, not realizing I was standing at the base of a mountain of stupidity from the beginning of my 7 years of my career, of just being and not being what I should have been, and walking in thinking just because I have a rank now, you're going to listen to me and I'm going to laugh and joke with you, but then I still need to be serious too. And I'm going to jump in on the making fun of people, but then you still need to take me serious too. And I'm going to get lost on calls, but you still need to take me serious too. And I'm not going to put any effort into it because you should be doing this. You're the firefighter, but then I need you to listen to me too. So it was tough. It really was.
So did you get made out of the same house?
No. So I worked in, it was a buoy station. I did my medic time by myself there. I'm sure this is kind of universal, but you become a medic or whatever, and you have to go work with like a preceptor, some type of program to educate you and teach you how to be a paramedic. And moving forward, then they send you off to your own ALS unit. We call them paramedic ambulances. So it's one ALS provider, one firefighter. It's the normal staffing. Now, you could have another medic on overtime or whatever. Anybody could work it. But it's one staffed ALS provider, one staffed BLS provider. So I was there for a while doing my medic time, and then I got promoted out of there. So I got promoted basically off a medic unit. And so for us, and I think this is kind of universal, if you get promoted, you have to leave where you're at. I think the military does that too. Like you need to leave, quite frankly. One, because if you're not an officer already and you have an officer, you got to go somewhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think I've seen it once or twice where you could work at a firehouse on A shift as a medic or a firefighter paramedic, and then like you get moved to C shift because there's a vacancy. They have to put you somewhere. You already work there. They're gonna put you there acting. Now you have a whole firehouse that just knows you as the firefighter or the fireMedic, and now you're in charge and you're working on your old shift and all that. And it's really not a big deal at some point, or in a short term or like overtime or swap, no big deal. But long term, I don't know. I mean, the right people in the right places with the right faces, I think you could make it work. But as a whole, I don't see it being successful. And I'm actually kind of glad they make you.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And I mean, it depends how big your department is as well. We have one house. The only thing they could do is put you on a different shift. We're all still in the same house. But it also it's hard. It shows that some of these guys that before they get promoted, they were not all into the job, and then as soon as they get promoted, they want to be a fireman and they want to be in charge. And now you're like, after 13 years, now you want to be a fireman. So,
yeah, and that actually kind of segues into, even when you're the officer as well. Like, I think I never really fully grasped, and I don't think a lot of this really clicked until recently, but I never fully grasped how much people remember everything. And this is just like, they may not say it to you. You may never hear about something you did 5 years ago, ever. until it's like the worst possible time and they're going to drop that hammer right on it. Well, yeah, you remember you did this and said this? That's pretty, that's pretty bad. Like that doesn't help your case. And it's like, well, shit, I haven't thought about that in 10 years and you remember it. That's the wildest thing is they can make all the mistakes in the world and they can't remember how to get to, whatever building you could ask them, but they know every damn thing you've ever done and every mistake you've ever made. It's kind of interesting how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it brings up reputation. Reputation's everything.
You see, I'm conflicted on that. There's been people that cringed to work with. Going with an open mind, they're great.
Yeah, they're not that bad of a guy.
Yeah, well, there's been several times where like, I've heard about a person and I got to know that person, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I've been, I have experience with this person. They're great. I've had a great experience with them. There was one time, and I can't really get into too many details, but long story short, I thought they were great. We're running a call. It was awesome. Get along, having a great time. We're going on this call. This guy knows where he's going. Great. Hit a T intersection. Hey, do we get left or right? Mistake on me. I didn't look it up because I thought you were good. 100% my fault, all of it. I thought you knew where you were going. We went left and should have gone right when we passed other calls going to the box. Other units going to the box.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what?
Never good.
Never again.
Mm-hmm.
And you know whose fault that was? Me. There's been plenty of times I've told people, hey, they're like, hey, I got it. I'm going to look it up anyway. I trust you, but and this is on overtime. This isn't I'm making it very clear. Not my shift, not my guys. Overtime, other places in my experiences where I thought we were good. We were not good, but it never seems to be on that person. It's always on you, the officer, and you look like an idiot. And it's a great feeling. I say that with sarcasm, but but the point that I'm making is, no matter if it's really, really good or really, really bad, do yourself a favor and make your own opinions. Because there's people that I'm friends with that are, I don't want to say not popular, but like there's people that I get along with that are great human beings on a personal level. And then you hear about them at work and like people trash them. And it's like, well, do you even know this guy? Like, because all the crap you say is not anything remotely to what I've experienced. Mm-hmm. Vice versa. You think someone's a stud and they're a dud. And I know I've been on both sides of that fence with people who know me. Either I'm great, bad, probably some in between. I'm no better than those opinions from other people either. I'm sure that I sit on both sides of that fence with individuals and whoever that I've worked with. I think but I think that's also a normal thing. Just in life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty happy when I got to my place, they actually said that. Like, listen, you're going to hear about different guys. You're going to hear this and that, hear that. But when you get here, you make your own opinion. Give it time, make your own opinion. Don't listen to any of the bullshit. Just figure out people for who you think they are. And go from there. And it's paid dividends. And we do the same thing now with our guys coming in. It's just make your own opinion first.
And you don't want to discredit people just because of a rumor or discredit people because of popularity, right?
Yeah.
You need to validate everyone, but don't discount anyone. Some of the biggest lessons I think I've ever learned in my career were from the most unexpected places. People that I don't want to say took for granted, but, I think this is just human nature. There's people where you're like, what does this guy know? This guy's got a shitty attitude. What the hell are you going to teach me? Why would I listen to anything you have to say? And you just immediately discount them. There's been plenty of times, more times than I want to admit, where I was in that opinion of people and I got burned. Like I just flat out missed an opportunity to learn. And long story short, they were right. And what they tried to teach me, they were right. And I never took the opportunity to appreciate that in that moment. And it's a big lesson. That's, I guess what I'm getting at with that is that's one of those big things that I learned as far as the transition we were talking.
Yeah. So in addition to your duties as a lieutenant, and so you've got some other stuff going on in the fire service as well, right?
I do.
So tell us a little about that. How'd that come to fruition?
What's that?
So how did that come to fruition?
Well, I do a podcast. I got a couple other irons in the fire that I'm not quite ready to let out just yet because they're I won't say they're not confirmed, but not enough yet. Two big things, and I think they're going to be absolutely fantastic. Just not yet.
Yeah.
So I do this podcast. It's called the Tip the Spear Leadership Podcast. And it actually kind of came up when I got hurt at work a couple years ago, right around Christmas. I hurt my neck, stumbling like a buffoon on ice and landed wrong. And it got haywire. And it got to the point where I had to be transported off the fire ground because we ran two fires back to back, two multiple alarm fires back to back. And I slipped and fell. I hurt myself, and I thought I was good. And on the second fire, I got to the point where, I was like, I'm just gonna take my stuff off. I'm gonna walk over to the engine, and I'm gonna ignore it, and I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna relax. We're gonna be good. And that was not the case. The minute I took my stuff off, that was the worst mistake I could have done because everything just locked up, and I ended up going to the hospital. And I had 280 discs in my neck, sprained my back, sprained my neck, sprained my shoulder, like all the fun stuff. So I tripped on ice and fell forward, and my head. The ridiculousness, the scorpion.
Yeah.
That's basically what it did.
Oh, man.
Oh, dude.
Oof.
Like, fell down. The Scott pack hit me in the back of the head, smashed my face down. I thought I knocked my teeth out. I had just had slush and dirty slush behind an abandoned school filled in my mouth. So that was great.
Good Lord.
I was worried like I thought I knocked my teeth out. Like, it just, the dumbest thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell's wrong with me?
It's always the dumbest thing.
Oh my God. Looking back on it, I laugh about it now. And that kind of segued into it. And another life event happened that I'm not going to talk about on here. I can tell you guys after the recording, but another major life event where I was kind of in a weird spot in my mind and in life in general. And I had a lot of time off. I wasn't working, and I needed something to do with my mind, to keep my mind straight, to stay on the straight and narrow, I guess, to keep my mind clear. And I started just writing stuff down. And I was like, well, this would be kind of cool. And, I got really nothing else to do anyway. Let me try an Instagram page and talk about all the times I've screwed things up. And, and that's how it kind of came about. What I guess I underestimated was, looking back, I think it's a lot more relatable than I realized. And it just exploded. And then I got ousted, and then people found out who I was, and I was trying to hide it because I didn't have the confidence to be proud of it. And I don't know why I felt that way. I'm not really sure, but looking back on it, it worked out. And, then I got invited onto the Kitchen Table podcast, I think it was called. And one of the guys that follows me on Instagram is like, you should try a podcast. Why don't you do a podcast in addition to your Instagram? And you can talk about the stuff that you post. I'm like, I'm not doing that. It's dumb. And I thought about it. I'm like, what the hell else do I got to lose? Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I did it, and that too has taken off. And, it's a lot of learning. I made a lot of mistakes with it. It's clashed with work. It's clashed with people in the podcast and social media community. Just typical.
Always.
Typical. It's always wild, man. That whole saying, what is it? Snake at your feet's better than a snake in the bush, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I learned that lesson pretty starkly, in not such a great way. And I say that, but it's like 99% fantastic and great, and 1% kind of keeping you level. And, just when you're getting cocky and you kind of think you got it all figured out and everything's good to go, reality comes by and just kicks you in the teeth and, kind of puts you back in your place. So I had that a little bit with this. And, those are the kind of the projects that I have. The other two that I can't mention, I'm really, really excited. I just don't want to put the cart in the horse just yet.
Yeah.
So
No
it's going to be
jinxing.
good. It's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be big for me, but I think it's going to be a new level, like a huge level of something I've never anticipated before. So I'm excited for that. I also I'm in a pipes and drums band, which is pretty cool. It's pretty rad. I enjoy that a lot. It's the Fire Brigade Pipes and Drums of Greater Baltimore. So I play the bass drum, like
Awesome.
the big bass drum, heartbeat of the band. Always waiting on the pipers, and they're there to just keep time and keep everything in line. And it's a lot of fun. I really, it's not anything I ever thought I would get into. My father-in-law, he was into it. He was one of the charter members there, and he ended up passing away from mesothelioma in 2017. And I remember
Sorry to
him
hear
always
that.
trying to get me to join, and I'm like, I don't know if that's something I like. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say unsure of it, but it just I don't know. It's not something I wanted to. I wasn't ready to jump in with both feet, and he died, and then I kind of thought about it, and I jumped in, and I never looked back, and I'm not as active in it as I wanted to be. Just how life goes, it kind of pulls you away. So, I'm still consistent, but definitely not what I want to be. So, but I
Yeah.
still have it, and it's something I really love and enjoy. And I think it also is nice to have the ways to, those things are really nice to detach and unplug from just everything. Music's a good way to unplug from life, and,
Yeah.
and gives you a different side of the fire service because it's a fire service band. So they're all guys from fire departments, guys from Baltimore City, quite a few people from Baltimore City, a lot of Howard County in Maryland. Myself and another guy from Prince George's County were in the band, and it's fun. Like you go there, everybody's in a great mood. They love music. The music helps me remember my father-in-law. I miss him, and it's kind of a cool way to stay connected.
Yeah.
So it puts some skin in the game, but it's just a nice bring you back to center kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those three things in the fire service that I'm doing kind
That's
of brings
awesome.
you back to center, balance.
And I think the band's probably fun, right? Because not everybody understands that pipe bands are fun. It's not always sad. There's a lot of fun that
But
goes
yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
no, and that's a great point. It's more often fun than it is sad. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say sad. I would say somber sad.
Somber.
Is that a sad word?
Uh,
It'll give you perspective. I mean,
yeah.
it's just like anything else in life. There's a lot of unfun parts, but there's a lot of there's that band is so
Yeah.
much fun. There's so much awesome stuff that outweighs the funerals
Same.
and memorial
Mar-
stuff. Like
March is a good time of year.
March, yeah. So we do a coach bus. We get like a large coach bus, and we do a tour. So I don't know if this is a fact. I haven't really looked into it, but I think I'm right. There's only one Guinness brewery in the United States of America,
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Right? We go there every year. To my knowledge, there's no pipe band, no fire service pipe band, definitely, that plays at a Guinness brewery in the United States on St. Patrick's Day, except for us,
Oh,
which is amazing. I don't know if you've ever been to the Iron Gate Brewery in
I've
Baltimore or
not.
not.
No.
I've been to St.
Do
James's
yourself a
Gate, but
favor.
not that one.
You need to put it on your list. You need to call me when you go, and I'll meet you there. It is amazing. It's Guinness. It's amazing, and
Yeah.
just the atmosphere. Like they have a whole. It's not a tent city, but like they have like a little a village that they put up, like a pop up village for St. Patrick's Day, and that place is absolutely bumping. And then we get there and you play. It's so cool. So we go there, and then probably I think it's 6 stops. We started at Irish Bar, hit Looney's, a place called Daniel's, which is like an outside air bar. Like bikers pull up and sit outside, and the seats are out. It's really cool. And then we finish. It's called Kelsey's Irish Pub. So we start there, finish there. It's an entire day. Like you'll get it to the Kelsey's at like 10 o'clock, and you get back at like 6 p.m. Like it is a full day thing. It is absolutely amazing. So March is a lot of fun. March is very, very busy. So we have the Baltimore City Parade as well, which any St. Patrick's Day in a major city, I don't know if you guys have done those or not. they're awesome. They're so much fun. And then you surround yourself with great people trying to keep the memory of a great person alive. It's awesome.
100%. I have a little perspective into that. My grandfather came over from Scotland in like 1960 something and started a pipe band in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
So like our whole family's involved in a pipe band, and it's by far one of my favorite things to get involved with when I have the time to stop by and like go to a parade or go to an event. It's what a good time.
Oh, it's fun. Like you're around guys from the job, you got around like fire department people, but you don't talk about the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
But you have that common connection. And I think that's the nicest part is you get this is going to sound bad. You get the benefits of the job without having to deal with the bullshit of the job.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like to me, I think the fire service brings out the greatest in people, especially when it comes times you take care of each other. If you need to be picked up or, you're struggling on your instrument and somebody comes in and they help you, I mean, the musicians that I am in the band with are second to none in the world. They are absolutely dedicated and amazing. And they're great people, so you get all that great stuff and you don't have to deal with it. It's not like you're, hey, let's go run this lift assist when we're supposed to be tuning your bagpipes. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like you don't have to deal with that, but you still get, you got this going on. All right, let me help. Let me drop what I'm doing right now to come help you until your crisis is fixed. Like it's there. Like I don't like saying the word brotherhood, but
camaraderie,
the community, the tight knit community is there. There's nothing wrong with the brotherhood, but I do think the brotherhood is saved, in my opinion, for the firehouses and guys in and from the firehouses. I don't know if I want to say sacred, but like that's a firehouse. When you're away from the firehouse, I think it's a community. I really do. I don't know. Maybe I'm off in the field.
I can appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's wrap it back to, let's get back into you. Do you remember your first fire?
My first fire ever. I was a volunteer. It was in our first due, and it was, oh God, I can't. I'm drawing I think it was a split level. Yeah, it was a split level house. So if you look at the house, it has the single level to the left, the double level to the right, double hung windows. So you walk in to your right for this particular house with the orientation. To the right would be 6 feet into your right would be split stairs, 6 steps down, 6 steps up. Steps down go to the lower level. You can call it a basement, and then the level below that's the sub basement. The steps to go up are going to be your bedrooms. The bedroom just walk you right into the bedroom hallway. And however the house is built, you'll have bedrooms left and right, bathroom, and then straight in is going to be a kitchen, and to your left, kitchen dining room, and to your left would be like a den. So you'd probably walk down 2 or 3 steps, and you're in a den. So I remember going, and the guy driving was the assistant chief, older guy, ton of time on. The guy riding the seat was the chief of the department. And then the guy in the back with me, and I've never been in a fire my entire life. Never. This is the first one. That guy, I think it was a safety officer. So collectively, they had more time on than I've been alive by a lot. I think the joke was by like twice my lifespan. I was 16 at that point. So like, you're looking at well over 40 years of experience, and I'm this 16-year-old snot-nosed kid, and one of the other chiefs I think got there first and like, hey, fire showing from the lower level on the front, side 1 back then. We didn't call it side out. Side 1, fire showing. Very vague. So we get there, pull a line, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what the fuck do I do now? Like, you know what I mean? The officer's like, open the line in that window, and then we'll go get it. All right. And it was like 100 degrees outside. It was hot as shit. And I opened the line. I'm just kind of flowing water, and all right, let's go get it. Well, another engine showed up and went through the rear, and then it wasn't, I don't know. It was chaos. I don't even.
A little bit of crossing streams?
Not really. No, it just wasn't. I don't think it was as great as I wanted it to be. But it was. I mean, I knew right then, like this is it for me. Like this is awesome.
This is it.
And the interesting thing about it was, you know, hey, we can't get through the front door if fire's blowing out of this. Like it doesn't work. And back then, people weren't under the mindset of the lowest level. Everything was front door, front door, front door. Make the steps, hold the steps. Like that was the mantra 23 years ago. You know what I mean? And so we have to fight into the front door. We can't get to the front door with all this fire hitting the bottom of the bump out of the house, rolling in front of the front door. You have to knock this down. Looking back on it 23 years later, I mean, I would have gone to the rear, like blow out a slider and you could see the fire. Like, I don't know why they didn't even do 360s back then. You know what I mean? So they missed it. It's just the second due engine went to the rear. That's just the way it was. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of how it was and how it shook out. And it was still cool. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, I didn't know any better. Like, whatever. Yeah. Tell me what to do. I don't care. I'll go do whatever it is you tell me to do. This is great. So that was the very first one, like, that I went on. But yeah.
The transition from where you were volunteering to where you are now, what was like that? What was that from your first fire ever to your first fire at work? Like, how about the difference there?
Huge. The speed and the intensity of where I work, I think, is second to none in the world. The area that I work in, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, it's collectively, for most of it, inside the Beltway, is some of the most aggressive firefighters, I honestly think, in the nation. And I never fully appreciated what the speed was like. Like, you know, the first fire I ever went on as a career firefighter. Right out of the firehouse, go down to the end of the street, it's going to dead end, make a left, make your first right. I think it was 4 or 5 streets up on the left. The house is on the right-hand side. And by the time we're there, we're turning the block, second dude's pulling up. And this is back when things were much different, and you better get in there. You're going to lose your fire. They're going to take it. God help you if you don't be that guy. And, you know, throughout my time in my rookie year, I won some and I lost some. And I'm going to leave it at that. You know, today's champ could always be tomorrow's chump, was what I was always told. You know, if you do great, but don't be arrogant. Don't be an asshole, because you know,
it'll come back.
Catch you slipping. Mm-hmm. They're going to burn you. Yeah. So that was one of my biggest things, I think, from my first one as a volunteer to my first one as a career guy, was I never fully appreciated the speed and the manner of aggression from these guys wanting to go in and put the fire out. I mean, the aggressiveness is just off the charts in a good way.
Yeah. Now, has that culture of speed and aggressiveness remained the same throughout your career, or has it changed at all?
I have relatively stayed in the same area for the most part for a large majority of my career, and different places have different levels. Some places are compact, some places are not. Where I'm at now, like I said, you could turn a corner being the first arriving engine, and you're going head to head with the first arriving truck. You look behind you, there's a second due engine. And as you're pulling up, for me, walking around, giving the 360, third dude's laying out and they're coming through the backyard of another house with their line. And this is, you know, everybody's all there. And then you go in north side or south side, you got a 10 or 15 minute response for some places. But what doesn't change for the most part is once they get there, the aggressiveness, the professionalism, the desire to fight fires is there. That's there. They just might be a little bit further away. Their drive time might be a little bit further. And I think the aggressiveness has changed. I'm not going to get too much into it. I think policy and other things dictate how fire grounds are ran. But the good people find ways to still fight fires aggressively and professionally and still work within what we're mandated to do, if that makes sense. So I think the aggression's there. I think the aggression just evolves into expectations. And you know, where I think you see that the most is inside the firehouse, where the policies may change at times, but the people don't. The love for the job, the love for being aggressive, wanting to do everything the right way the first time without being prompted, wanting to be intelligently aggressive, not aggressively being aggressive and being stupid. I think you have guys that, you know their AO, their area of operation. They understand how to work within those limits. And I think they find ways to, I don't want to say compromise, but find ways to keep their work level the same. But again, like I said, find that medium between policy.
Yeah. I think the good guys always find a way.
Yeah. Because a guy I know says it the best. I'm a professional firefighter. I'll make it work. Nothing can stop me. I'm going to make it work and I'll adapt. But you're not going to keep me from being good at my job and being a professional.
Nice. Yeah, I would say your department is incredible. I had a chance to buff there one time, and I was astounded. I buffed in College Park. A guy from my hometown actually went to College Park, and he was one of the chief officers there. And he's like, "Yeah, come on down." I'll tell you after who it was.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I know. I'll tell you after it was. In a good way. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But coming from a small town in Jersey, and I always looked up to him because he was down there. It's PG, right? And then we went down there, or I went down there one day, and there was an alarm at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's 4 engines, 2 trucks, and a rescue on scene like that. I was like, this is incredible. Incredible for when the chief's getting there and the stick's already up to like whatever floor on this high rise. I'm like, this would never happen in my county ever. You couldn't get this many rigs here in 5 minutes in your life if you tried.
So that's College Park's in the 4th Battalion. So that's one of those areas that I was telling you about where everybody's super compact and super tight, where you're going to make a turn and you're looking at other units immediately. So like if you were to run into Branchville's area, you swing that turn from College Park, you run Spring Hill Lake, and you turn into that neighborhood, you're looking at other units the second you pop that hill. Like you're right there. If you go, God, what would that be? South into Riverdale. I mean, everybody is clumped together. It's the same thing. That's a case in point of what I was talking about. But it's funny that people say that all the time. Well, PG County's this, PG County. It's so interesting hearing people from, and I hear this in my podcast a lot of, everybody knows who we are. They know how aggressive our area is. And I mean, consistently they go to fires as a whole. I think everyone goes to fires, some places more than others, but as a county as a whole, I think we do well.
Yeah. I think you guys are go ahead.
No, that was good. No, go ahead.
I think you guys are a case study for a combination department being the largest combination department and having fires to have proof of concept.
Yeah, and we used to be the largest combination, or the largest and busiest combination department in the country. I'm not sure if that's still true. I'm pretty sure it is, but without having the facts in front of me, I don't want to misstate it. But yeah, pretty sure we're the busiest and the largest combination system in the country.
And you're catching work. Good work.
Consistently, I think they're consistent. I think the county as a whole, yeah, come to work, or whatever, come to work, and it's a matter of when, not a matter of if. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And that again, kind of tie into, the leadership and stuff, the operational discipline, right? If you're third due, you stay third due. If you're first due, you are first due. I mean, there's some gray areas in that, which policy dictates, and follow the policy, do the right thing, and you're going to show up when you're supposed to be there. If you do that enough, you're going to catch a lot more work than you realize. I think that was one of my biggest lessons, kind of touch on what we talked about earlier, when I was going from being a firefighter to an officer. I always wanted to jump due. I wanted to jump the run card all the time. And I never appreciated why that was such a big deal and why that was such a problem. Later on in my career, operational discipline has led me to some of the best fires I've ever been on, some of the most unpredictable situations, with the opportunity to step up, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and you get all the fire. You get the credit as far as being a solid company, so collectively everybody. And You get a few of those under your belt. It builds your confidence. It creates camaraderie with you and your guys because you all are, doing the deed. It's what everybody wants to be there for.
Mhm.
And it comes in time, especially in our county. And I'm sure it's like that nationwide. But I mean, from my experience, I think that was one of my bigger lessons, becoming an officer and looking back and just maturing. I think, you know what I mean? Getting more time on, more experiences under my belt, of learning that lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So, what do you think's the most impactful moment of your career so far for you?
I had a fire when I was an officer where absolutely everything, I mean, you name it, it went wrong. I thoroughly embarrassed myself. The fire got put out by another company. We were first due on it, and this is years and years ago. Um, and it was a kick in the teeth. Right when I thought I was arrogant, I knew what I was doing. I felt like a cockiness, like, oh, I'm a lieutenant, blah blah blah. I'm going to work here. I work in this place, and I'm cool because of the number on my helmet, and I'm an officer. Look at me, like all that crap. Like just the ego was so huge, and then I mean, you want to talk about a punch square in the teeth. I mean, holy
Gotcha.
shit. And it went absolutely terrible, right? I'm not going to say the name of the street. Anybody that knows me knows exactly what I'm talking about, and they're probably laughing. And they're going to, I think that created rifts, reputation, maybe like a title on me that, I mean, I was in a big tailspin after that. That it was like quicksand, man. Just one thing went wrong after another, and after another. And before I realized it, I was in over my head, and there's nothing you can do. Like, you ever seen that movie, The Replacements? They talk about that, the quicksand analogy.
Mm.
Nothing you can do. You're in over your head. You can't breathe. You can't move. You can't talk. It's it. Lights out. You have failed. You are irrelevant on this call. You might as well pack up and go home. I felt about that big, and it was to the point where I couldn't even look somebody in their face. I have never in my career been so embarrassed and had something and lose sleep over a call so much because of me. I know it was me. I know I didn't get myself prepared. I know I didn't take my job seriously. I know I didn't have my crew ready to go. I was more worried about getting along and having fun than being the supervisor. And, it total loss of control is what it ended up being. And I don't think I've ever felt like such a failure in my entire career as I did in that moment. I've done some dumb things. I really have. Like, I really have. And it was one of the things that I've regretted the most in my career, that I wish I could go back in time and pretend like it never happened. And I think the real lesson came in two ways. And this is why this is the most impactful fire. Same street, maybe 1,000 feet apart. Like, this is how close these houses are. There was another fire. This fire was freaking ripping, people trapped, everything. New crew, new point in my career, different time in my actual life. This was years past, like, God, 5, 6 years later, maybe. I heard the street. I immediately, my entire body, I'm like, oh my God, not this street. And the first thing I thought of was just everything. So like, I'm going down the road, like, to the point where I'm like, my body's shaking. I'm so like overwhelmed with that first fire. Like, I hope this doesn't happen again, blah, blah. And I remember taking a second, taking a breath, but being comfortable with what happened because I knew how much I've progressed since then. I've had more fires under my belt since that fire, right? I mean, there's been quite a few, and you know, it was almost like the culmination of that change in my career of who I was and who I was as an officer. And now it's kind of like, not a Super Bowl, but look, you've been prepping for this for a couple years. Here's your time to shine. Like, it's a redemption. Now go fucking
Yeah.
do it. Go out there and knock this out of the park. And my guys freaking killed it. I have never been so proud of a group of dudes just showing up and freaking walking the dog on this very hot, well advanced fire seamlessly. Very little talking. Everybody was where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. And they did their jobs. And it was fucking amazing. Very few things were spoken, normal communication, very little guidance, just quick eyeballs, like double check. All right, you got your shit on, you're good. I didn't say that. I'm just saying, like, double check. You got your stuff on, lines charged. I can hear the pump of the engine winding up. I see the water coming. Hey, I got water. I hear guys clicking in, taking that first breath of that regulator opening up. All right, everybody's on air. I'm good. I can see my shit. I'm great. I think the fire's back there. Yo, LT, this is where it is. Hey, you ready? Yeah, I'm good. One guy was like, hey, do you want me to do a search? And he didn't get that out. What he said was, hey, I'm gonna. And I said, do it. And I knew immediately what he was saying because we're jiving, right? It's just, we're freaking rocking. Fire gets put out and it was good. And I think why that was transformational was what I think I learned was I don't give myself enough credit with things, and that no matter how much you fall flat on your face, you can always rebound, and how important your crew is to you. They're going to make or break you, but don't always think everything's always going to be negative. And I think that brought me into a new level of confidence, because that first fire that was terrible crosses my mind every day. At some point, somehow, some way, I think about it, and not even like a PTSD thing, like just in general, it crosses my mind. I still get anxious in a good way we run boxes, because that call is still in the back of my mind, but where the transition came, and I guess the point of what I'm saying is, I get a little anxious and then I move forward like it's nothing, because I know I can handle it. I've had a couple fires since then. I'm not gonna get into this fire, but I had one fire that was another interesting moment in my career, and people that know me are probably going to laugh their ass off, where without this first shitty fire, I would have never had the confidence to pull the trigger on this latest one that I'm not going to talk about, because I have the confidence in my guys knowing, they would check me if I was going to make a terrible decision. And I think that was what the most important lesson I learned was, you can do absolutely everything and anything. You can bounce back from everything, and fires are going to leave marks on you in your life and in your career. But the rebound of how you come out of it is where guys are going to respect you. That's when guys are going to want to follow you. And I think that's where you're going to make the most progress as a person, as a man, because you're owning your mistakes. You're moving forward, and you're showing you can do it with confidence. And as an officer, you can't screw up, and you can admit it, and you can take it on the chin. But in the same token, and the ultimate thing is, regardless of how much is going on, you can execute and be there for your guys. So that, I think, was one of my most impactful fires.
I would agree. It sounds like it. I think the ownership's huge.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
That's gigantic.
Well, I think ownership, sincere ownership, genuine ownership. Because there's people like, oh man, I fucked that up. But then they go and fuck it up again. Like, they go and screw it up again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll give you an example. I screwed up some areas, like it was embarrassing how much I screwed up a call one time with not really being able to read the map. And somebody said, hey, you have a map book and we still messed this up. Pardon my language. You have a map book and we screwed this up, and it was embarrassing. And collectively, you have the map book and we need you to fix this, because this will not happen to us again.
Yeah.
I got checked. Roger that. So I went and I made two, you're not gonna be able to see it, but 3-inch binders, like gigantic binders of our first through fourth alarm areas. So our entire first due, our second due, our third due, everywhere first through fourth due. Anything beyond that, the engine itself has a collection of maps for the exact same areas, and then a large area. And I made my own, and I went through every single map page and I drew in a little 5 in which way we're coming from on the map, and I wrote the running route to get to that map page for 4 box districts, right? Because I refused to ever allow myself to be in that situation and feel like that again. And there's been mistakes. I mean, I've still screwed a lot of stuff up, and I even have that map and I still screw things up. And I think that's just life. I think it's a matter of how you recover from that part. But, it was even brought up how funny it is where I go get my stuff together in the mornings and then I come back like a little kid with my school books. Like, I'm not a big guy. I'm only 5'6", and I've got these 2 gigantic map books, and I'm walking like this with 2 huge binders. You know what I mean? And it was comical. And the comment came up of, it is something to be said that they can't, you had a issue brought to you and you didn't say anything to anyone, and on your own, you just randomly showed up with gigantic map books and looked like a little kid going to school because you have your own map books now, to not allow that to happen. And that came from somebody who's not easy to impress and does not hand out compliments ever. So, you got to appreciate the lesson,
Yeah, 100%.
Do your
I would ask you.
go ahead, Rich.
Now you go.
I was going to ask, do your computers have maps in them, or you just solely rely on the map books?
So, there's an expectation of knowing your area, knowing the area, like, the maps will give you the finite information, like hydrants, exactly which house, like left side, right side, without like turning the block and being like, oh, it's 100, which means that's going to be 102, and so on and so forth. And we where I'm at, a majority of the area is a grid system, so the numbers get larger away from DC, then smaller towards DC. Lettered streets are typically in alphabetical order. They may not be always A through Z, but if you have a street that starts with an A, you're not going to have an F street immediately after. You're probably going to have a B street or a C street. So it'll be, if you had every letter, it'd be A, B, C, D. So whatever street it'd be that letter. But so that they're there for that finite information, but the expectation in the grid system, or the expectation in general, is you should know 90% of your area. So the large streets, and you'll hear a lot of guys that are good. They'll say something to the effect of, I just need a hydrant, or you're going to have to guide me in after whatever street. Like, I've got it to Smith Street, and you're going to have to guide me in, and I just need a hydrant. You know what I mean? And then a lot of drivers that are in smaller areas that have smaller first dues can tell you everything and anything. And then there's those guys, the Renaissance men, where they've been around and they're just that smart and experienced, where they just know everything. It feels like, But so nothing's really technically on our MDTs, mobile data terminals, I think is what that MDT stands for. That just gives you CAD information, updated information from call takers. It's touch screen, so like you can status and route, or you can clear a call, you can go on scene, like all that stuff. And we just don't. They have maps in it, like a GIS map, but not anything that is efficient or effective for us to use. You have to know how to read the map. You have to know where you're coming from. GPS in our area just isn't great, because GPS will take you the quickest way, not the right way, and it doesn't correspond to knowing where the hydrants are. So you could look at a map, or you could look at Google Maps, and it'll give you a running route that's super fast. You're like, oh, that's golden. But what it doesn't take into account is, where's second due engine coming from? Where's the hydrant? What's your priority on this building? It may not realize there's a fence there. It doesn't see that there's six speed humps on this street, which if you take the next street over, you can go off like a rocket ship. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not very relevant as far as the mapping. So the guys have map books. Some are better than others, but for the most part, people have maps. Some places have hand-drawn maps still, but teach his own, I guess.
Gotta appreciate it. I love the little mid-Atlantic culture of map books. It's very like profound there, in my opinion.
Well, I didn't realize how advanced those computers can be. Like, a buddy of mine works in another department, and it all comes to his computer. And you just tap on it, it tells you everything, everywhere to go, the correct fire department way. But I know my maps because I have done them with my brain, my hand. and that computer can break. I can lose that map book, allegedly, or not allegedly, possibly, excuse me. But between me and the driver, we should be able to get everywhere, anywhere, and do absolutely anything. And I was always taught a piece of paper and a pen and a sharp mind is the most effective officer when it comes to responding on a call. Because you can write that address down. You know what I mean? You can write down information. Pen and a paper. And rely on yourself and your maps. If nothing else, don't rely on that computer.
Yeah, that's good. That's solid.
I mean, it's a little different where Rich and I work. We're not running an area as large as you would be running, like if you were running into another district's area. We're like, I got 6 square miles to know. Rich has 1 square mile. So
yeah,
where did you stay?
That's our first 2.
Where are you at?
So I'm in Asbury Park, and then James is in Long Branch. So super small, but it starts to build out from there. The other thing is where we work. So we're both in career departments. James is in a combination department. Mine's strictly career. But the box alarms for the county that we're in, we're running wherever we're running, but on a yearly basis, it changes. Because there's incoming chiefs from volunteer departments who make their own box alarms, or they make their box alarms for the year. So like December 31st, I know I'm going to this town, but on January 1, maybe I'm shuffled somewhere. And it depends on what piece it is, because we're running an engine and a truck. And we run truck company operations or RIT off of our truck. So that all depends, falls in line too. Typically, there's 4 guys in our truck, but if we go to RIT, we're running 5 guys. So we have to steal a guy from somewhere.
Yeah. That's wild.
So it's unique, but then you have 4 guys in the back of the rig on their phones pulling up addresses and looking for alternative ways in. So it's kind of interesting.
So do you guys have active 911?
We run, what are we running, James? Chief 360 now.
Chief 360
is what we're running.
We have active 911, and it's actually really good. But again, it's a tool. Yeah. And I think if you become dependent on it, it'll probably work. But what I've learned,
you got to be prepared to have another option.
Don't rely on that cell phone. Don't rely on that computer. At some point, something's going to happen, and then that'll be the day that you have something big going on, or you have a ripper. Nice job, nice fire. But you'll get that call, and you need to be able to step up and still perform, even though you don't have your primary thing. I think people
make it work, right?
I think people become dependent on their phone for maps, and you can tell. Like, you can see some of the way people run on calls, or you can see fires of how they came in, where they laid out, what hydrant they took, where you're just kind of like, why'd you do that? Like, you can tell they use GPS. And I'm guilty of it. I mean, there's been a couple calls recently, actually, where we don't have maps for that area. I don't know where we're going. I have to use GPS. And then I just zoom into the map and try to use it. Like, all right, well, GPS says this, but that doesn't, we can go the other way because of, whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So and it doesn't give you the fire department thought process where you can add that link and use your phone map, your phone map or your app or whatever as a tool. But you still have to make your decision as the officer or the firefighter.
Gotcha. Yeah. So running your own podcast, you obviously have a view and a portal to the outside world. Did that start after you started the podcast, or did that start before you started the podcast?
Say it one.
So, like, in the fire service perspective, like, you come from a pretty big department, and it's somewhat uncommon for guys in bigger departments to get outside of their department. And doing the podcast, did you start getting outside of your department when you started the podcast, or was that before?
My reach, I think, really started with the podcast. So I don't interview anyone that currently works in my department. I will not interview someone that's on the job. I don't. Mm-hmm. And that's not a personal thing. I think, to me, it just keeps a lot of issues from happening, because it just, if you're retired, you can say whatever you want. Or if you don't work with my department, you can say whatever you want, and then free speech, as long as I don't trash my department or, say something specific that could, erode trust or in the public or, whatever, then I have my constitutional right to say and do what I want, So, I reached out to a lot of guys that are not in my department, and it puts me outside of my comfort zone of, I talk to guys from New Jersey. I don't know much about New Jersey fire departments. I know a few things. I know a lot of guys from Jersey. I got 2 guys on my shift from New Jersey, and I hear a lot of stuff about it. And I hear about it, but I personally don't know it. And the nicest part about it is, and I'm glad this worked out this way. And hopefully this answers your question a little bit better, but being able to have that outside of the DMV perspective and grasp from guys that, I'm not going to say no name guys, but guys that are not like on the national level, the national speaking level, or the national podcast level, learning all these very finite things from guys that are just off the charts intelligent, and you'd never know it unless you reached out and tried to find it outside of your area or outside of your comfort zone, I guess you will, or your bubble, like outside of the Capital Beltway for me. There's so many things that I've learned that I would have never known about. People I've met and talked to that I would never cross paths with them. And then what does that bring in? Other things in the fire service and other lessons and a lot of leadership stuff and experiences and stuff I would have never learned interviewing guys on my job or sticking with just doing my job by myself or learning within my department. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with staying within your department and learning from just your guys. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I do think being able to expand and reach out in these other areas throughout the country and different departments, different cultures, I liked it, and I got the most out of it from reaching outside of my area and with the podcast. Before the podcast, it was very minimal. So
yeah, so it's kind of like a force multiplier for personal development.
Well, yeah, and it's funny how you say that. So I get to talk to some really, really sharp people. I've talked to a lot of really sharp people. I get invited on a lot of these, or not a lot of these, but I get invited to these opportunities. And I talk to guys, and I try to surround myself and accept podcasts or accept opportunities for people that I feel are way ahead of me. Like even on my job, guys that are light years beyond my intelligence, light years beyond my ability, light years down the road of who I want to be, where I want to be in my career. Like I find those people and I try to soak it all up. So when I do the podcast and I get to talk to all these people, I don't talk about my problems at work. But if I find something that I'm like trying to work through and think through, I'll somehow try and bring it up on the podcast and get their perspective. So I have, as an officer, you have, you have situations in your career where you have to work through. It's just, as you develop, your problems develop and your situations come up. Well, I get to talk to some of the smartest people in the industry, pick their brains, listen to some of their lessons. And it's just like that old adage, like I forget what magazine it was, and I really wish I could remember it, where it says what you read today could save your life tomorrow. It's kind of the same thing. I'm learning from all these guys. Now I get to go back and take all these lessons and things that I've heard and all that. And if I start seeing it at work, not with my guys in particular, I'm just saying in general, and I'm not saying anything about them, but like let's say there's a scenario with a person and I'm like, in my mind, it immediately triggers a conversation I had. And I remember the guy tried X, Y, and Z and I tried. So I get to learn all these things. I get to get my thoughts out and I get to, run my thought process through conversations with people. And then I get to go back and apply everything that I'm learning and stuff that I'm talking about and things that I'm reading. I get to go apply it at work, trial and error. But it's almost like a infinite file of experience to just tap into. It's like the ultimate guide of experience and mentorship that I can tap into at any time and try and use it. So I get to learn things, learn lessons, hear experiences, and I get to go apply it at work. Actual real world application. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and some things just don't apply. And this isn't towards you guys, but like stuff that works in Asbury Park, I know it's not going to work for me, so I may not try that. Or you told me about something happened at work, and I go try it, and it works amazing, even though we're in 2 completely different states, hundreds of miles apart. Yeah. But the ideology, the culture is all there. So and it's all about interpersonal interaction, and then ultimately love for the job, and putting out fires and getting along with people, and being part of that culture and that brotherhood we talked about. That's what it's all about, So that's why I really like being able to reach out beyond my normal circle. I think the development and where I'm at confidence wise from learning like having the tools in my toolbox, I would have never had that if I just stuck with my inner circle, or not inner circle,
Yep.
but within my bubble, I think is the right way to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of personal growth that comes out of that. Staying in your bubble is good, but it's comfortable. And being comfortable is never good for growing.
Yeah. Comfort's the enemy of growth. Whether you see it in the moment or not, it's the enemy of growth, and it always will be.
Perfect example of this podcast.
Yeah.
It's something I never would have ever thought about doing, and then I got to make yourself uncomfortable to get better.
I couldn't have said it any better. And one thing that I learned, and I'm sure you're probably the same way, I was so anxious with a lot of stuff, and now it's 2 years later, and I haven't even looked back. Like people say stuff, and it's just like, what the hell do you know? Like, what the hell do those guys know? People are going to say stuff, and I think it also created the opportunity to be confident. You know what I mean? You're not going to get people to give you compliments, but if you want to go to a new level of personal growth and a new level of being confident in your job and a new level of just having that command presence, I think, because it all ties in, go outside your comfort zone and thrive and see how it makes you feel, right? The ability to ultimately control your mind, like really control your thoughts, opens up clarity beyond anything you could probably recognize without having that moment. And where does that happen? Out of your comfort zone. Like, well, I don't feel comfortable doing an Instagram page. Well, they just found out who I was. Now I'm getting made fun of. But there's 30,000 people that love it, and my inbox is full daily. I get invites for all kinds of shit. All these people seem to not connect. What is that? Relate to what I'm talking about. Why am I going to allow a few people to give me a bunch of crap and they're not doing anything with themselves? And there's a difference between ball breaking and talking shit. Like there's a complete difference. And I actually talked about this the other day. It's always kind of funny when people have the most to say at all the criticism, but yet they never have anything to say to your face. You know what I mean? There's a stark difference in guys that are giving you a hard time and messing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then guys
it's easy to distinguish between ball busting and like something that's where they actually mean it, and you can detect it pretty easily.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just messing with you. No. See, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And look,
I got it.
Yeah. I actually had an interaction like that where somebody did that, and they're like, oh, I'm just kidding. I'm like, no, you're not. I would actually rather you just be straightforward with me than lie to my face, because you want to give me a hard time. I can get over that if you don't respect me. But if you're gonna be a coward and try to be my friend, I have a huge problem with you. And I don't think that guy liked you very much. And quite frankly, I just don't care anymore. And the right people will come to you. The right people will. I don't know how to explain this. You'll know who the right people are. You really will. And at the end of the day, none of it matters. It doesn't. This is a job, and I hate saying it like this. You could retire tomorrow, and if you get 6 days out of people remembering, or 6 months out of people remembering who you are, you're lucky. It's a job that, God forbid, you drop dead tonight. Somebody's filling your spot tomorrow. They're going to fill it with a transfer, and you're just going to fall off the face of the earth to them. So why allow a job or something like that to dictate anything you do in your life that makes you happy or gives you fulfillment? Yeah. And it took me 39 years to fully, really grasp that. And I still have times where I have to remind myself of that. That's my thought process on it, dude. Not to get too deep on it.
I've learned over the last couple of years, like I don't let any of the haters take up any space in my brain.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's
I
human
could care
nature for it
less.
to resonate a little bit. I mean, there's still times where I've heard things. People have said things where I'm kind of like, I wouldn't say beat myself up over it, but it's weighs on my mind a little bit, and I always take a little bit to kind of work through it and then just move on and drop it. I think it's human nature. You know what I mean? You don't want people to hate you. You don't want somebody to disrespect you. But I mean, I can't control them, but I can control how I react. I can control how it affects me, because if, I'm with my crew and you talk shit to me and you own me in front of my shift and I kind of walk away like a little bitch about it, I mean, that's a problem, because you're a coward. You just allowed that guy to walk all over you. You didn't even stand up for yourself. Are you going to be able to stand up for them? You allowed that guy to treat you that way. It's not what you say, it's what you tolerate. And I've been guilty of that in my past, unfortunately, as much as I don't want to admit that. But being able to really grab that and honestly tell yourself you have control of your thoughts is a very, very clarifying moment.
Yeah, 100%. Can't argue with that.
No. So I know we're coming up on an hour and a half now. Definitely, we can go on for a few more hours if we could.
Imagine sometime
here. Yeah, we'll have to do a couple more episodes. Just want to ask one more question before we wrap up.
Sure.
So actually, Rich will have one more question that's not on the list that he likes to ask. But what would you like to tell a new guy on their first day?
Be yourself. Be yourself. I think I know I was guilty of it, and I know I see it where guys are trying to conform. They're not trying to go along to get along, but over time you can watch a new guy start taking on the opinions, making the same comments, even like maybe the way they physically talk, the way they carry themselves, the way they wear their uniforms, is following someone else, for good or for worse. I've seen guys that are fucking freaking rock solid, razor sharp, because they're following the right guy. And I've seen guys that follow the negative guy, the guy that has all the answers and doesn't fix anything, can't go anywhere in their career, and always has something to say and is always negative and hates his life, hates his, everything. And there's rookies that follow that, and they kind of go down the negative Nancy spiral. I think what I would tell any rookie is, be yourself, be honest about your mistakes, and don't be too hard on yourself. You're going to screw up. You're going to screw up absolutely everything and anything you could think of. And you can be, I think the fire department's like golf. I really do. You could feel great for the longest time, then you could absolutely have an absolute garbage game, and then you kind of sit in the garbage world by just kind of screwing up a few things. But you're going to come out of it. So I think that's what I would tell any rookies. Just be yourself and have fun, man. This is the best job in the world for a reason. The brotherhood's not dead. Mental health doesn't ruin the fire department. All these negative things out there that people talk about, abolish the NFPA, all this just negative crap. There's so much chatter and noise. Just ignore all of it. People that want to, the abolish the NFPA thing, people that, the mental health thing, whatever. If that's their niche, then let it be theirs, is what I'm getting at. Find your own. Be you, right? Be an individual in a world of copycats is what I'm saying. And there's nothing wrong with those other guys in the mental health. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. But what I'm saying is, don't follow things just because of the culture or especially the internet. Like, the internet is so full of people talking about things that you can say and create whatever you want. There's no validation for it at all.
Right.
Like, what the hell do you know? Not you, but what the hell? And you're going to go ahead and start your own training company. And I watch people do stuff, and I'm like, well, you're not doing anything different than that guy's doing, but you changed a letter. Now it's revolutionary, and there's literally nothing wrong with conventional forcible entry. Nothing. Yeah. It's conventional for a reason. It's even in the title, conventional, right? Don't follow the culture. Create your own path and be able to filter the BS and just be yourself, man. That's it. I know there's a few things to tell a rookie, but I really wish I could go back in time and tell myself that. I really do. And I think I created a lot of problems for myself because I was so worried about being what I thought a rookie should be and what others wanted a rookie to be and what others wanted me to be. And throughout my life and my career, I spent so much time worrying about that than just being myself. And I think I created a substantial amount of problems because of that. And if I was myself, just genuinely just being me and just doing things how I do them, I would have been fine. So like, I was so worried about what you two would think of how I started this all. I tried to do it how I thought you wanted me to start it, and I screwed it up. And then you're like, hey, Mike, why'd you do that? Why don't you do this? And the example you gave me was in my mind what I knew I should have done. But I was too worried about trying to impress you. I was too worried about doing it the way I thought would be the cool way or the right way to do it, rather than the way I knew to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So that would be my biggest thing. And I'd probably throw that in for new officers too. I really would.
Yeah, I like that answer.
Especially
I think it speaks
it's
a lot.
Yeah, very easy to become a product of your environment.
And you kind of want to belong.
Yeah.
You always have that innate feeling where you want to belong.
You want to belong, but
The cost is high.
it is. And one thing that I've learned is the job and the guys mature just as you do. So you can never fake who you are. Like if you're genuinely always yourself, that's going to bring consistency and dependability. But if you're continuously wanting to be liked, you're wanting to fit in and all that, those, I guess, examples are what people think are the in thing for that moment. Those are going to, they're going to change as time goes on. Look, vent, enter, search, right? Vent, enter, search. How many times has that changed? For no reason.
Yeah.
Vent, enter, isolate, search. Well, isolate should probably be a given because if you don't shut the door, you're going to figure it out real fast, right? Now there's another letter for vent, enter. I don't even know. But the whole point is,
it's crazy.
All those things are going to ebb and flow. But if Rich, James, and Mike are the consistent dude that comes to work, always tries to do the right thing, they have a great attitude, they're sharp in presentation, sharp in person, sharp in attitude, and 100% when they're at work, they're 100% in, ready to go, want to learn, do the right thing, and be a good person. No matter where all that guides you throughout those years of what's popular, what's not, what's in, what's not, you're still going to be the same person doing the right thing every time. And whatever that in thing is, whatever that, I don't want to say buzzword, but whatever that culture shift is, you're still going to be the same guy doing the right thing. You're going to still be the same guy huffing down a hallway. You're going to still be the same guy standing on a landing while the other dude's walking the dog and you're just sitting there shuffling the hose. Like, you know what I mean? You're still there no matter what, just as an officer. You're still doing your 360. You're giving your basement reports. You're leading. You're making decisions on the fly. You're able to consistently deliver. Yeah, I think I'm out of brain power on that one, but you understand my point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. So I'll get you with the last one here. We're all sitting in our seats because of experiences that brought us to this point and people who've invested in us over time. And, fire service being what it is, we don't always know when those people are going to come in or come out of our life. You now, Lieutenant Mike Nasti, looking back, if you could thank people, who would you thank? Why would you thank them? And just give them an idea of how their role in your life brought you to where you're sitting now.
There's 4 people. 3 of them I really can't talk about because they're on my job. They know who they are. And if for some reason they're convoluted on it and they're listening to this podcast, I've talked to 3 of them, all 4 of them within the last 24 hours about work. They'll know what it's about. Nothing bad. They know about it. One guy is now part of our department who wasn't before. I've known him since I was a teenager. I knew him when I was 15 years old. And, I've told him this directly. I told him this when I first got promoted to lieutenant, that I wouldn't be who I am or where I am in my career, in my life, if it wasn't for his guidance, his foot in my ass, and just being an overall good person and mentor and filling the gap for that father figure in my life. And he knows who he is, and I'll leave it at that. The other guys, both picked me up kind of when I was a screw up officer. I did a lot of stupid things. I did nothing but screw everything up, and I was in a bad way. I still had that firefighter mentality with officer responsibility, not in a good balance either. Like, you have to think as an officer, you have to be the officer. And like I talked about before, being able to deliver. And I never fully appreciated that. And those two kind of really put their foot in my ass and operationally and in a day-to-day fire department way. They know who they are, and I've thanked them multiple times. There's definitely it's very clear that they know who they are and where they stand in my career, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. Especially when it comes to the confidence of my podcast. They're always kind of cheering me on. Talking to me like, and when I screw up, hey, hey MFer, come here, and they crush you, like just slam you. And typically when I screw up, I know it's coming. The last person would be my father-in-law, who, like I said, he passed away. And he was always that father figure I always wanted, and he was there. And I only had him in my life for a short period of time, and it kind of sucks, but always there for me. I think he was more excited for me when I got promoted than I was. He was awesome. He really was. And unfortunately, he's not around anymore. And I know he'd be very proud of everything. I wish I could have kept him around longer, or I wish he would have stayed around longer. Excuse me. Didn't get sick and would have stayed around long enough for me to be able to bounce a lot of these things off of in my life recently, in my career recently, and just like some officer stuff. I really, really wish I still had that resource. He's actually, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this. He's right. This is when I got promoted. He's right here. His name's John McNeese, and that's my brother-in-law, Danny. And he's another dude. I don't think I give Danny enough credit. I really don't. And, he's great. He's in the same level in his career as I'm at, and him and I talk a lot about work, and he's had a lot of impact on me. He's my brother-in-law. Obviously my wife's brother. That's actually somebody I want to make sure I add to him and give him credit, as well, if people have kind of really developed me. There's a few other guys and they know who they are. And I'm very clear with people where I stand about a lot of that. So I apologize for naming a bunch of people, but one thing I was always taught is it takes a village, right? It's never one person. You're going to grab things from different people. You're going to be a mentor, have a mentor, all that. And, I always try to surround myself with the people I want to be, right? So like the old saying is, if you hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll be the sixth. If you hang out with 5 marathon runners, you'll be the sixth. If you hang out with 5 losers, you're going to be the sixth. If you hang out with 5 drunks, you'll be the sixth. All that. So, and even running with runners, you may not, break records, but your time's going to increase. You may not be able to keep up with them. They're going to dust you, but you're going to be able to keep up with them and you're going to get better. So, I think that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
All right. So, Mike, thank you.
Sure.
We appreciate you coming on. Seems like you have a lot of lessons that you've learned in your career, and I'm sure that those lessons will help others as well, as you can pass that on to other guys. Seems like you're rocking and rolling in PG. So hopefully you keep going to fires and you finish out your career strong.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity. It's definitely an honor. Like I said, I know who you guys are. I followed you guys for a long time. And to be, again, like I said in the beginning, to even be in the arena or the discussion, to be a part of anything you guys have going on is truly an honor. And I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
I really appreciate it, man.
All right. Hopefully maybe we can do a part 2, because it seems like we can talk for hours.
You just let me know. I'm down.
All right, cool.
Sounds like a plan. We'll wrap this up and stick tight.
Yeah, stay on.